Hi guys. So, I have a cold. I'm sorry. But my husband is working late tonight and truthfully, I'm bored. So, I figured why not do our first live on this channel because I'm impulsive like that. I wonder if this Aquarian thing, who knows. But yeah, I've got Prue here. Hello, say hi, Prue. Say hi. Yep. Hi, Raquel. So, got my tea here. And I've got Prue here. As you can see. She's just moving her head back and forth like. So the worst part about this is not even having a topic, because again, I'm impulsive like that. I don't know if Aquarians are impulsive. My day was kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to hang in there, and it sucks because my husband said that all this week it's going to be like 12-hour shifts. So I was kind of hoping maybe by excuse you, miss. Guess we're leaving now. Doing something like this, I can maybe take my mind off of it. So, and yes, by the way, this is a nerdy mug. It's from World of Warcraft. I know, big surprise. But yeah. I figured tea would help my throat, so. Oh, hold on. Luna, say hi. No? Alright. So, I'm not really sure what to talk about. Like, I don't know what would be a good topic. I know, Raquel, you had mentioned kind of how I came on my path. And I guess I could start there. And if anybody else shows up, I can do kind of like a AMA thing as I was talking about. But so, yeah, I have been pagan since I was about 15. And I'm 32. So, quite a few years. And I think the thing I find the most interesting is that I haven't really ever strayed from this path at all. Even though you go through a lot of things in your teens and you go through a lot of things in your 20s, just, that's how that tends to happen. Everybody seems to try and kind of start to figure themselves out in high school and then spend the rest of their 20s trying to figure themselves out further. But that's been one of my big consistencies is paganism. And when I was about 15, I always kind of believed in a lot of different things and a lot of the mystical side of life. I always and still hold the belief that we can't know everything. I just don't think we're meant to. And so I kind of relish in the fact that there are mysteries in life. And I've felt that way since I was a kid. But when I was 15, I started to look into reading about books that were written by mediums to kind of figure out how I thought about the afterlife. Oh, it's okay, Raquel. I'm just talking about how I came to the pagan path. So, which you'll catch up on. So, I was trying to define how I felt about the afterlife, and I wasn't raised under any religion. I had a brush with Christianity because of a friend of mine, but I just kind of realized it after a pretty short time it was not for me. Hi, Erica. And I was, I think, like 9 years old when I discovered this. But what prompted me into figuring out more about the afterlife as a teen is that I had my uncle pass away suddenly when I was about 9. And I went for a while not really having much of an interest in any sort of faith, just being a kid. But then when I was 15, I started to really try and question stuff more and more, as I think, some teenagers maybe do. I don't know. I was a weird kid. I'm a weird adult. But so I read a lot of stuff by Sylvia Browne, I remember, and I thought that some of the things that she had to say was interesting, but I would go to the local library in my hometown and I would just canvas the metaphysical section, and then I found um, the Wicca Bible, I think by Elaine Holland, and I read through that and was like, holy crap, there are people who believe in an earth based religion that seems to put you more in the driver's seat than I think any other faith that I've come across, at least so far in, my 15 years of life. And this was something that I needed so desperately. I needed that self empowerment as a 15-year-old who was dealing with just wrecked with depression and, going through some of the things that teenagers do, trying to identify yourself, as I mentioned, and stuff too. So that finding Wicca gave me a sense of empowerment. And then I picked up, Scott Cunningham and Marian Weinstein and, tons of other pioneer authors. But as I progressed into my 20s, I realized that Wicca was not exactly for me because I found it too rigid. And I'm an Aquarius. We are very independent and we don't like rigidness. We don't like rules. It's an Aquarian thing. And I know a lot of people who are not Aquarius that are like this too, but I found it too structured. I needed something more fluid. And especially because I found out that my path was fluid even without my, like, I was kind of just in the passenger seat for a lot of this sometimes. My path would progress and I'd be like, guess we're doing this now. So it that's how I kind of steered away from Wicca. And when I was about 23, that's when I started my first YouTube channel. I just realized I should probably turn on my monitor for my kids. There we go. But and I think why I did YouTube back then is because I wanted to share my path. And I think it was more about sharing my path and helping others than I think it was now, which is about camaraderie and helping others. I've never been in a coven. I've never been in a group. I have observed public ritual a few times, but I'm a really shy person. And so it can be really hard for me to connect with people. And I mean, let's face it, I met my husband on an online video game. Girls. Sorry, my cats are like duking it out in the hall. That's what they do with their sisters. Sorry, Raquel, I'm reading your. Yeah. Hi, Trish. So, my path has progressed, I think, the most in the last 10 years, I would say. And at first, I held a very pantheistic view of the world, and I still do, actually. And I was very much drawn away from personified deity. In fact, the concept of it scared me because I could not stop connecting it to the Abrahamic God. I thought that if I worked with personified deity, that it had to be the Abrahamic God or something exactly like that. And I never really fully realized that it can be whatever you want it to be, whatever your connection to the gods is. And for everybody, it's different. So I resisted for a long time until I started to randomly get pulled towards certain deity. And I realized at the time that I worked with these certain deity, or I was pulled to them because it was what I needed in my life for what they represented. And let's see, the first two were the Celtic goddess Danu, and she is like a a mothering Mother Earth kind of goddess. So she helped me with the whole, I think, the initial connection to personified deity. It helped me make that connection with a Mother Earth goddess because then I could still connect it to pantheism. But then I started being drawn to the Morrigan, and I was like, okay, a death goddess. This is interesting. What's this about? Here's my phone. I'm just going to mute that. I always forget all these things, all the technology. So this was around the time, I think between the ages of 25 and 27, I worked with the Morrigan. And when I hit 27, I hit rock bottom with my depression. It was a terrible year. I lost my job because of my depression. I came head to head with my diagnosis for endometriosis, and there was just a lot going on all at once. It's just, you know how you have one of those years that's just particularly terrible? Yeah, that's what 27 was for me. And I think the Morrigan was what I needed, who I needed to work with in order to make my peace with myself in that sense and fight what I was dealing with on so many levels. And then I turned 28 and I hit the biggest transition I think I have had so far. And shortly after that, I had my son. And motherhood changed me dramatically. So, motherhood even changed how I practiced my beliefs, and not only from time management, but just how I viewed my magic in the structure of my work. So I found that interesting because right before I became a mother, I hit this huge transition that I think bled into everything in my life. And I'm now a much better version of myself than I was at 27. And I continued to go through this transition from 28 now to 32. I think I'm hitting another one. So, which is partially why I came back to YouTube, is because I was sensing this transition and I'm continuing to sense it. But it also, I think, is a funnel for the things that I've gone through this year, being, grief and all that stuff too. But between the birth of my two sons, I covered this in my how I got to the Norse gods video, but I'll kind of sum it up here again too. Hold on a second, let me take a sip. Ugh, it feels so good in my throat. In between my two sons, my connection to the Norse gods took off, and I kind of always thought that it would because of my heritage, but I was like, if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I just had this feeling that it would eventually come to that. And I was like, all of a sudden, I just needed to get a tattoo of the runes. And I was like, oh, let's get a tattoo of the runes. And I don't know why I needed to do it, but I just know that I needed to do it. So I ended up getting this. And if you guys know anything about the Norse gods, if you do something like that, it kind of sparks something. And so my connection to and my draw to the Norse gods just took off. And I actually have a friend who is a Norse pagan. I met him here in Minnesota. I could show off my tattoos, but there's some that might be hard to get to. There's a few on my back, but he was telling me that he had a strong feeling that it had something to do with getting the tattoo as well. But so when I had decided to try and have another child, that's when it was before that, as I was kind of gearing up to do that and take that on, is when I started to get drawn to Freya. And it was pretty much like I was working with the Morrigan and she was like, hey, you know what? We're done. You can have we'll just do a nod every now and then. And you can leave me an offering every now and then, but you're going to go to Freya now. That was pretty much how that feeling was, which was very interesting. I have not encountered Loki yet. I am wondering when that's going to happen and if it ever will. But so far, it has really actually only been Odin and Freya and just a teeny bit of Thor. So that's been interesting. But yeah, I'm wondering if that will ever happen with Loki or not. And for me, I think when it comes to deity, it's just kind of whatever happens happens. I've definitely learned that over the years, especially because the feeling of randomly being drawn to a deity, it's like you're being kind of pulled around. You're just being pulled in by this gravitational pull, and you just have this need to know everything about that deity. That's how it's felt to me. And for instance, with Freya, I bought that statue, and I had to have her presence in my home, and it just kind of grew from there. And then as I got pregnant and was in my pregnancy with my son, my connection to Odin got stronger as well. And for those of you who have a glimpse into my personal life on Facebook, my son's name has a nod to the Norse gods. It also has a nod to our heritage, because my husband is also, he's a huge chunk Norwegian pretty much. So but but yeah, so as it stands right now, it's definitely still very much Odin and Freya. But and this is something I actually plan on covering in my household video series that I plan on doing. But I do work with a household deity, and it is Bastet, the Egyptian kitty goddess, because I have cats. So I have a statue of her in my living room, and she has like this little bowl that has this little lid on it, and I'll leave her kitty nip every now and then. And it's mostly just because I want her to watch over and protect my cats. So that's the other deity that I kind of have like a little bit of a thing work with. Frigga, I'm actually surprised I have not had any interaction with, because Frigga is more the home and hearth goddess, the mothering energy. And I think the reason why I have not worked with her, and more so why Freya became a thing, is because I was in kind of the thickness of motherhood and still am. And I think I was drawn to Freya to help awaken and keep the other parts of myself vibrant. So, and Freya teaches me to love myself, and she teaches me to fight for myself and to fight for others, and to just spread love and strength and bravery and kind of project that. So, and I think that's a big thing with self-love. This is why I have talked about this on this channel, and this is why the thing that Kellyanne Maddox is doing with Self-Love September is just fucking phenomenal, because so many of us struggle with that. And I could go on that for freaking ever about that, but so that's the long-winded, like, pretty much the my pagan path, and kind of where it's from 15 to 32. And I don't even really fully know where I'm going to end up next, but who knows. I'm kind of in the driver's seat. Like, I've got maybe one foot on the pedal and one hand on the wheel, and then the other half of me is in the passenger seat, just like, all right, this is cool, we'll see where we end up. Maybe I'm going without GPS, who knows. Okay, Erica, I hope you have a good night. Oh, that's an interesting. Triple goddess can be found in almost every cultural aspect, I think, if you look hard enough. I could be wrong in it, though, but I mean, I think if you really wanted to find it, you could. Those DNA tests. Yeah, I know, Raquel. Actually, my brother messaged me a couple months ago, and he's like, oh, I just bought one. And I was like, sweet, that means I get to know, because I'm your little sister. But then he told me that it was delayed, and I was like, are you kidding me? I want to know. Good night, Erica. I hope you sleep well. Get all those, get the mom warrior going. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm going to continue to do the AMA thing. If you guys have any questions for me, if there's anything you want me to know or anything you want me to discuss, shoot. Just gonna drink my tea. I really hope that's the still for this, just me going. This is I got this at Trader Joe's because a friend of mine works there. It is ginger pear white tea. It's really good. You should, Raquel. Just be like, hey, you spend the money on it so I don't have to. Yeah, when my brother told me that, I was like, no, I don't have to buy one. I know my husband's grandparents did the DNA test recently too, and he's like a pinch of German, a pinch of Irish, and like massively Norwegian. So I think it's hilarious. I think I got lucky. One of my siblings obviously cared. I only have 2 brothers though. They're both older. And one of them's really supportive of my path. The other one knows of it, but it's kind of like, yeah, you're weird. But in a more like loving big brother way, like, you're just weird. I'm like, okay. I'm surprised I wanted to do this with the sore throat, but I'm actually not feeling too bad. So do you guys have any questions for me? Any topics you want me to discuss? Because my mom brain is drawing a blank. Tarot. Okay. What specifically about it? Tarot can be kind of a vast topic, so. That's good. I'm just gonna hold this. It's comforting. Yeah, to further explain this mug, I said it was nerdy and that it's from World of Warcraft. It's a little monster from World of Warcraft called a Murloc. Look at his face. He's so cute. They're actually really annoying in the game, but he's cute. So how I got started with tarot. I wanted a deck when I first started, but I was kind of afraid to get one, and it's not so much because I thought it was evil. It didn't really hold that, but I just didn't think that I didn't trust my intuition. And that has taken me just now recently. I finally started to really embrace it more. But so I held off for the first like 5 years, I think, that I was on the pagan path. Excuse me. And when I was 20, I lived in North Carolina with my ex, and I actually lived in one of the towns that got hit pretty hard by the hurricane. So that was a little bit surreal for me. But in North Carolina, they have a bookstore chain that's a lot like Barnes & Noble that's called Books A Million. And my ex was, I don't want to say, he was pretty Buddhist influenced, but he was definitely spiritual. And we were browsing all the metaphysical stuff in Books A Million, and I saw the Revelations Tarot by Zach Wong. And it has a very like stained glass kind of style to it, which I'm obsessed with stained glass. So I was really drawn to it. And I didn't get it then. Well, coincidentally, a few months after that, I ended up moving back to Washington. My ex and I broke up, and it was right after that I ordered the tarot deck. And it came, and I was completely enamored with it. And I would do readings mostly for myself, occasionally for my cousin, sometimes for my older brother. and sometimes for a few friends, but I don't really think I fully started to understand or embrace the actual structure of tarot until very recently. And even so recently that I made a video where I answered the 17 tarot asks, and I said that I wasn't drawn to the Rider-Waite, which I'm not, but I, since taking on studying tarot more extensively, have had a very deep appreciation for the Rider-Waite because of the fact that it is a pioneer. It's the foundation, and I really do want to get a deck that is maybe not exactly the Rider-Waite, but close enough to it that you can get for its structure, because I have a handful of decks that obviously follow the Rider-Waite structure, but I am trying to find one that has a pretty close personification of the structure of the Rider-Waite, but it's not to a T with the artwork, because I'm really, really drawn to the artwork in decks. I'm a visual person. I'm an artistic person. If it doesn't resonate with me, I'm not visually, I'm not drawn to it. So in the Rider-Waite, I never cared for the artwork, but I do have a deep appreciation for it now. But so I would read with the Revelations deck off and on pretty much throughout my 20s. And I didn't stray from it a whole lot. I collected a few other decks. I think I only had 2 or 3 more that I picked up in my 20s, and that was the Goddess Tarot and what was it? The Art Nouveau, which the Art Nouveau is gorgeous, a gorgeous deck. But it didn't work with them very much. And then I got the Wild Unknown a couple years ago, and I was so completely enamored with that deck, and I still am. That deck is a deck I've gotten quite good at reading with, and the deck I recently got, the Moonchild Tarot, I have started to work with just over the last since I got it, and I just think like a week and a half now. Now I feel like I don't know anything again. So part of me wants to maybe stop reading with it for a little bit and continue reading with the Wild Unknown, but to just kind of continue to get a recognition of the cards. I'm catching up on comments here. I like the idea of holding something ancient and mysterious in your hands, though, because as I said, the Rider-Waite is the pioneer. So, and there's something to be said about that for sure. But, oh, sorry, I'm adjusting. I think my leg is asleep. But the thing that I realized in working with the Wild Unknown is that when I picked up, for my first deck, when I picked up the Revelations deck, that deck has reverse meanings as well. And I realized it's kind of more of an advanced deck, and I really should have researched a little bit more. But at that time, I thought you just get whatever deck you're drawn to, which there's a truth to that. But if you really want to study the structure of tarot, I now realize that the Revelations deck was just a bit much, and maybe that hindered my understanding of tarot, I think, a little bit when I was younger. Hello, Prue. Welcome back. Now, as it stands going forward, I would love to read with. I think there are certain decks that I will have that I can read with for other people, and I hope to start doing this more intuitively as I've been working on and researching more on how to work with my intuition and to embrace my intuition more. Hello, Kat. But and I have thought about reading for others and opening up a small business, but I think that's probably quite a bit down the road. Favorite tarot channels? I just found Imogen Walters within the last month. She's delightful, and she has endometriosis as well, so that was awesome to kind of find someone else who struggles with that. And she's just, I love listening to her. She just seems like the sweetest person ever. I absolutely adore the Cackling Moon. Rose is really cool. She's very bubbly. She's very insightful, and she's very sensitive. So that also, I just am drawn to her personality because she has the bubbliness that I don't have, but she has the sensitiveness that I do, and her knowledge of tarot is pretty extensive as well. I have only seen a few videos from Hermit's Cove Simon, but I did like what I saw. What else am I following that I thought was cool? Now I can't remember. I've chatted with Rose a bit, and she's super cool. I left one comment on Emotion Walter's videos where I had said that I had endometriosis as well, and she was super sweet. So, but I have been, I just found Kat's Weights and Tarot recently too, and I found her interesting. She's also more she seems more bubbly or extroverted. And when it comes to YouTube, I do tend to be more drawn to people who are more bubbly because I think they bring out something that in me that I don't quite have. So you just don't know what to do with yourself, huh? She keeps wandering back and forth. You might see her down here, like kind of wandering back and forth if you can, but yeah. So there's the tarot topic. Yeah, if you have any recommendations, please. I'm always wanting to expand my sub list. I'm always wanting to find other people on YouTube. And specifically with tarot. Oh, Annabelle Wen is the other one that I'm sub to. That woman is a freaking walking brain. Like, holy crap. She is, I mean, I think under the in the dictionary in intelligence it should just have her name. It's insane. She's a very, very bright woman. And I do not have her book yet. I've known about it for like a year and a half and I still haven't picked it up. And sorry, I'm just checking my monitor for my babies. Okay. And yeah, I need to read that book, but I've watched quite a bit on her channel too. Oh, awesome. I will totally check out those. Thank you, Raquel. Well, any other questions? If you guys don't know, I'm truthfully weird AF. I have Prue. She's kind of sprawled out down here, and she just looks completely massive. And it's funny. Ow! I just banged my elbow. I don't know if you can see her down there, but she's ridiculous. I can move this back. There you go. Are you watching any shows? Not really. I actually haven't sat down and watched a show in I think like a year. I don't know why. Well, no. My husband has me watching Better Call Saul, and I watched. Hey, I'm glad you could make it, Allison. We watched through Breaking Bad. I'm so late to the game on Breaking Bad. We watched through it, I think, last year, and simultaneously I was also watching through Vikings, which I love Vikings, but I have not seen the newest season, so there's that. But yeah, for there's a show I actually was hoping, I don't know if they're still making it, but I was actually just talking to a friend about this recently. Paranormal Witness. For paranormal shows, I really enjoy that show. Yes, please, my recommendations. But yeah, not a whole lot for TV right now. I want to be hopeful about the Charmed reboot. But yeah. Oh yeah, I do follow Kellyanne. I actually followed her even before I started making videos. I followed her for a good like a year before. And I think she was like one of the only people, I think from with like a select few other, I think I only followed like 4 channels until I started making videos, but kind of exploring YouTube more again. But yeah, so not a whole lot in the show. Right now I'm currently reading The Highly Sensitive Person. I can't remember her name right now, the woman who does it, but yeah, it's a book about all about being an HSP, which I am. I want to watch The Handmaid's Tale, but because I am so sensitive, there is a plethora of shows I cannot even watch. So I have to be really careful what I watch because I can't handle I can't handle gore at all, and I can't do pretty heavy stuff. It's hard for me. So, but I can read stuff. I mean, I will still be affected by it, but if there's something about, because I'm so visual, there's something about actually seeing it played out that's way worse than reading about it, I guess, to me. I don't know. But currently reading The Highly Sensitive Person. I'm reading Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, and what was the third book? I'm reading like 3 books right now. I've heard about Marvelous Miss Maisel, but I have not looked into it yet. I really want to get 78 Degrees of Wisdom. It's like top on my list right now. And the Holistic Tarot. And then Wild, the book that... Hi, Kidder. The book that you mentioned, Raquel, in your recent video, Wild. I was very curious about that, so I wanted to read that as well. But yeah. Currently not watching a whole lot, reading a few things. I am a slow read, though. I am dyslexic, and it takes me like 3 months to finish a book. It's ridiculous. It's actually something I've truthfully been embarrassed about, because my husband will sit down and finish a book in a day, and I'm like, how do you do it? Oh! But I also just got yesterday the Player's Handbook for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. I have never played Dungeons and Dragons. I've wanted to since I was in the 5th grade, so kind of going through that a little bit too. I have not read that. One of my all-time favorite books is Memoirs of a Geisha. So, for fiction. Nonfiction, I don't know, there's a handful of them. Because there's a handful of books that were just kind of pivotal for my pagan path. And so, I mean, if I talk about nonfiction books, it's probably going to be mostly that. One of them, as I said, is actually Earth Magic by Marion Weinstein, the Wicca Bible, even though I'm not Wiccan anymore, but it was literally the first book I ever read on the subject, by Aileen Holland, and Living Wicca by Scott Cunningham. Those were like very pivotal for me. Pardon me, for just my grasp on this path and just kind of furthering the foundation for it. And see, for me, there are times where I will be reading something and I will suddenly zone out, and then I will read it, but I won't comprehend, and so I have to go back. But the other fiction novel that I'm reading through right now, and again, you guys are gonna laugh at me because it has to do with, but the creators of World of Warcraft, Blizzard Entertainment, they're doing a series of novels that is the extensive history. So giant nerd. They're called Chronicle, and that's also been super fun. But yeah, so any other questions? I'm almost out of tea. And I'm not getting up to make another cup. Yeah, I don't know if you know Allison, but I am a huge WoW nerd. I'm getting a tattoo in February, right after my birthday, which is the end of January. But yeah, I met my husband on it, so that is um it's just one of my deep loves. My husband, who is currently slaving away at his job. Well, there's the tea. Yeah, there is actually a documentary on World of Warcraft called Looking for Group, and they talk about how they have uh, unintentionally created a platform for people to meet. And so they've started friendships, they started marriages, and then they even said like kids exist because their parents met on World of Warcraft. And my husband and I are both like, "Ha! Our sons exist because of that." It was funny. I've been playing video games since I was 3, so really nerdy. The Sims is good. It's fun. I obviously right now I'm playing World of Warcraft. I'm playing Child of Light. I'm playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. Those are the 3 that I'm playing the most right now. So, and my PC is a gaming PC, so platforms that I play on are mostly PC, and then I have a Nintendo Switch that we just got to. And then my husband and I have pretty much every old console. Sega Genesis totally counts. Totally. My husband is a huge Genesis nerd. Okay, thank you, Raquel. But yeah, so more paganism, witchy related questions, if you guys have any for me. My fur beast is rubbing against my hand down here. Hello, kitten. Oh, she's shedding like ridiculous. So I kind of covered this a little bit, deities, but right now I'm working with Odin and Freya, mostly Freya, but yeah, those are the 2 that I'm working with primarily. What kind of spells do I cast most? Honestly, it's mostly cleansing and protection. They cleansing and protection are primarily what I do mostly because I'm home a lot, and so I am very often trying to reprogram the energy in my home. If I have a day where I am just not feeling myself, or I am struggling with depression or chronic pain, or my kids are just off the wall and I've just had a tough day with being a stay-at-home mom, I want to cleanse that energy. And I have this thing about, even though my kids are pretty little, I'm even now telling them, like, don't yell in my house. I don't like it when there's raised voices in my house. I think it messes with the energy. So it's a lot of protection and cleansing. And I regularly do bath cleansing spells too. So, or bath cleansing rituals. Do the deities change seasonally? No, it's primarily these two are who I'm working with and have been for the last couple of years. And if it changes, it changes, but it has not for a while. So yeah, Allison, we did cover that. So you can go back and kind of watch that. I don't have any problem sharing that, Raquel. Well, let me just I'm sitting cross-legged in this chair, and occasionally my legs fall asleep. I think that witchcraft and paganism, I actually came to it because of my depression and anxiety. Before, I had mentioned that it also was because I was trying to define the afterlife as a teenager, and then I had mentioned that I found something that kind of puts you more in control in the driver's seat. And that was something that I desperately needed dealing with depression and anxiety, because depression came on first, anxiety came on a little bit later. But those two generally, they're like this. So it sucks because a lot of the time, if someone suffers from depression, they will suffer from anxiety to some extent. Not always, but it's pretty common. But I definitely needed something to help me gain control in something that I could not control at all. And the same goes for endometriosis. And as I did in my most recent video, I spent so much time not knowing what this was and not knowing why I was in so much pain and feeling like I was crazy. So there's a lot of things in my life that have defined me that have been lack of control. So knowing that I have a bit of that is empowering, and I have always had a great need to have self-empowerment. So that is definitely how it has helped witchcraft and paganism in the relation to depression, anxiety, and chronic pain. I do work with more than one divination form. I actually really love divination. It's been something that I've loved for pretty much since my stepping into this path. But it's I work with a pendulum, although it's been a little while, and I work with the runes. I have kind of put my studies of the runes and knowing them by heart off on the back burner as I have delved more into tarot, because I can't take on learning both of them at once to try and memorize. It's just too much for me. So I was actually just thinking about this today, how once I get more established and comfortable with learning tarot and feeling like I can read with it more comfortably and knowing the cards, I will start to pick up the runes a little bit more. And I have a few books that are really great on the runes. I actually shared them in my recommendations for Norse mythology or anything that related video. I did a book recommendation. I get I'm just waiting for my husband to come home and be like, what are you doing? I'll probably end the live, I think, maybe before he's supposed to come home, just so he doesn't come in and be like, what are you doing? Because my husband has no interest in being on camera. I work with a little bit of herbs kind of more the well-known ones, because I have not expanded my knowledge outside of that. I just haven't been drawn to it. But I work with more tree energy, I guess, because I have that massive the massive ash tree in my backyard, and that thing is like a spiritual conduit. I don't know what is up with that tree, but it's a beautiful tree, and it's an old tree. It's I said about 50 years old. So, and when we first viewed this house, I walked into the backyard and I saw that tree, and it was like, look at that tree, just, oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous. It just, there's something about it. So that tree is also kind of my stabilizer. I will go out, I walk across my lawn barefoot and put my hand on the tree after a ritual or a spell that's been a little bit more extensive. And so the tree helps me keep grounded. In fact, I did a banishing ritual a few months ago that was really heavy, and I sat underneath that tree when I did it. So that tree and I were just definitely, we got a good connection. But the other thing about tree magic or my connection to trees is that I have a deep connection with cedar trees, and that's being from Washington State. When I was younger, I had 2 massive cedar trees in my backyard. They were like 80 something feet tall. They were just huge. And I loved and adored them. Unfortunately, when the house was sold when I was 17, the new owners came in and cut them down, which was just devastating to find out. I cried when I found that out. How could you do that? Like, oh. But when I was in Washington last year, I was camping in the North Cascades, and we were hiking through the forest in the North Cascades, and big cedar trees or even sequoias are kind of prevalent in that part of the state. And these trees just, I have this distinct memory of walking through the woods and looking up at all these massive trees. I even took photos. I should share them sometime. And there's just something about it. It's incredible. It's moments like that that make me truly understand that I'm on the right path, and make me truly understand that there is something more. Absolute, without a doubt. So trees to me are exceedingly sacred. I mean, so much so that this is one of my, I don't know if it's kind of hard to show it, but this is one of my most of my tattoos have a personal, very spiritual meaning, but this was more influenced by spirituality. Those are cedar trees or evergreen-esque trees. And then, of course, you've got like the night sky with the stars and a nebula, and yeah, so. Oh, I love trees. I admire people who are drawn to plants and care for them and are more green witches, because I am not a green thumb. I tend to kill plants, and it makes me so sad because I'm like, I'm pagan, what? But I just don't have a good, like, I'm not much of a gardener either, and I want to become more so, especially now that I have a home, but I'm like afraid that I'll kill them. I have one plant that is going strong in my house, and it's in my kitchen. And it's doing good. I think it's only like 8 months old, but it's doing good. And that's a good point, Raquel. That's exactly what I was talking about with the fact that I've embraced that my path is very fluid, and that I needed something to be fluid. So, because change is the only consistency in life, and we are going to be drawn to different things at different times. Something, for instance, like a life event can spark something in us to pursue something else, or we can just randomly be drawn to pursue it out of the blue with nothing to push us towards it. And I think this is something that I've been learning lately too, just embracing my intuition, is that you really need to listen to those calls, because something is talking to you, something is telling you to pursue something that you need to pursue. So, dreams and guided meditations, that's an interesting question. So, I did recently do share my past life regression experience, which was nuts. And I did a video on that. So if you want to watch that, Allison, you should check it out. It's very interesting. I'm not very well versed in meditation. I actually have been very self-critical about the things that I experience, and I just decided to go for it with that past life regression, and I definitely had a very interesting experience. But dreams are a whole nother thing for me. I tend to get a lot of very spiritual messages through my dreams, and most of which have been contacts from my deceased grandfather, who I was very close with. I actually have a huge tattoo on my leg that is for him as well. And since he passed, I've had numerous dreams that have been very profound. I had one the day before my mother passed, or the night before my mother passed away, with him in it. And I've had dreams where I've lucid dreamed, and it's been kind of accidental. It's really funny. Like I'll have something occur in a dream, and I'll be like, it's not right. This is weird. I'm dreaming. And then most of the time I'll force myself to wake up, because it never occurs to me that I can do anything. This is the dream world. So I'm kind of waiting until that moment clicks, and then all of a sudden I'm flying or something. Yeah, I did do a video where I kind of discussed my experiences that I had with the spiritual communication with my grandfather through dreams. But I've also had spiritual messages from deity as well through dreams. So, girl, get that chakra work going. I had, specifically with Odin, I had a dream that sparked my draw to him. I was in a big, think like Beauty and the Beast library, the library in the castle in Beauty and the Beast. That's what this was. And I had a friend sitting at a table by a really big window, and I was right next to him by this window. He's sitting at the table, I'm sitting by the window, and he starts talking about how Odin's the god of knowledge, which is strange because the friend in the dream is actually a very avid atheist friend of mine. So I was like, what the? And he's talking about how great it is to work with Odin, and I was like, this is strange. But I just remember turning away from him and looking out the window at this massive, massive tree, which had to be Yggdrasil. And I just remember kind of muttering, like, All Father? So after that, I was like, oh, okay. What's up, Odin? Guess that's happening now. It's like the majority of my experience with deity. It's like, all right, guess we're doing this. But yeah, so I have had, and I had a dream with the Morgan once too, which was interesting. Actually, a few, I think, if I remember correctly. I try to write down my dreams. I tend to remember them most nights, if not more detail than it's kind of flashes and images or themes. So yeah, so a lot of my spiritual messages, a lot of my intuition comes from dreams, or honestly just feelings, which is kind of hard to decipher when you're highly sensitive. But again, I've been working a lot on trying to embrace my intuition a little bit more, in hopes that I can kind of progress a little bit further with that with my path, because I feel like when you default to constantly trying to prove yourself wrong, it's it's really frustrating, because you're stifling yourself. And I mean, I'm not saying be naive, but I'm saying embrace what you have. Freya or the Morgan, what do you want to know specifically? I did kind of discuss them a little bit when I was kind of going through my how did I get here paganism journey. But if there's something you want to know specifically, I can definitely elaborate. My cat's just passed out over there. I don't know where my other one is, but she's a creep. The Morgan, yes. Freya, I had an experience with her in that past life regression meditation, which was really crazy. With Freya, it's not so much that she appears in my dreams, as more sometimes I'll just feel her presence. With the Morgan, she's straight up appeared in my dreams a few times. Yeah, it's kind of similar to that with Freya. In dreams, she's more, like I said, I more just kind of feel her there in a weird observing sense. But Alvine works with the Morgan, and she has a few videos where she talks about her energy, and it's a really distinct kind of very I'm right here energy. And Freya can have that energy if she wishes, but I don't think it's as prevalent all the time, at least not from how I have experienced it. But the Morgan, I had a dream when I first started working with her, which first sent me on the path to working with her, where I was kind of floating in between her and I think it's pronounced Hecate, the Greek goddess of magic. I was floating between the two of them, and they were kind of deciding which one was going to take me on or have me work with them. And it was strange because Hecate kind of looked at me and basically said, "You're not. This isn't for me." But the Morgan didn't say anything. She just kind of stared at me. But it was just this really intense stare. She had this like black feather hairdress, and it was just interesting. These dreams, by the way, tend to become more prevalent or intense during a lunar eclipse. This is another interesting tidbit that I forgot to mention. This is something that has always happened to me, and so every single time we get a lunar eclipse, I'm like, oh, great. What kind of weird dreams am I going to have now? But I am really spiritually ruled by the moon, so I am a Cancer moon sign, and I think that has a lot to do with it. But I really want to look into my birth chart a little bit more too, and learn a little bit more about how to read birth charts. Because I also have printed off them and put them in my son's baby books too. But I'm sure they'll get older and be like, "Mom's weird," but you know. So yeah, I've had a lot of very interesting experiences with dreams, and after having that experience with the past life regression meditation, I have definitely started to realize that I think I might have a I don't want to say gift because that seems really pretentious, but I think I have a draw to it or something that can help me a little bit more build the foundation with some of the experiences that I could potentially have. So I would like to open up to do more astral travel. I'm very curious about it. I'm very drawn to it, and I want to try and explore it a little bit more, but I am not well versed in it at all. So that is something else I intend on taking on. Woman staring at me. Oh, what did she look like? Same black headdress, huh? Really, Allison? Interesting. What did this woman look like in your dream, Raquel? Because when you get scared awake like that, or when a dream wakes you, it's profound. I've had dreams like that with my grandfather, where they will wake me, and that's how I know that they're profound, or they are just insanely vivid. Like real life could be standing right before me, vivid. So, I would recommend dream journaling. I think the most prevalent thing about dream journaling is when you wake up, don't talk to anyone before you write things down. Write them down, don't talk to anybody. Because the moment that you start talking to people, your brain kind of starts to rewire and the details start to slip away. So that's something that I read that actually is really prevalent. So, and I have a dream journal right by my bed. Oh gosh, going on a mission. Okay. Yes, I've had this forever, and then I keep a amethyst right by my bed too. So, as well as just my overall journal. Journaling has always been something that's been really helpful for me to kind of express myself and get a lot of the stuff that's held up inside out on paper, and you know. I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I don't know. It's such a weird. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I've never done anything like that, so I am always worried about something like that hindering what I'm actually experiencing and me doubting what I'm experiencing. So I try to have a very like. In fact, I don't even. I. This is another interesting topic. I don't generally drink when I'm going to do ritual. I will have a glass of wine as kind of like the cakes and ale or the offering or I'll have a cup of tea. The kind of sit with your deity or your spirit and commune. I will consume alcohol then, but I don't ever get to a place where I feel that what I am experiencing is compromised. It's just a personal thing with me, because I already have enough trouble struggling with self-doubt, so I feel like something like that would hinder it further. So, yep. Oh, what are you doing, Tank? But yeah, so I think I will do a couple more questions, and then I probably should call it quits because my throat is getting kind of sore. But this was fun for my first live so far. And you ladies are so awesome. I would absolutely love to do a live with you, and I would love to do a live with Allison as well. And I think for Trish, if she ever wants to, before you go, Trish, just because we live close to one another, it'd be really cool to do one in person sometime. I think that'd be awesome. But enjoy your night at work, Trish. Like, that'd be fun. If we've ever picked up a topic and just did that, that'd be cool. But yeah. Spiritual destination. It's interesting because I mean, so many ways, so many things can be defined as a spiritual destination. I think one of the pivotal things for me for spiritual destination actually is Japan. They just how the Japanese live spiritually is incredible. It's incredible, and it's very structured on the teachings of Confucius. So their belief structure generally is a coexistence between Buddhism and Shinto. And Shinto to me has always been fascinating. For a while, I actually wanted to be kind of more of a Shinto pagan. And I have a little shrine up here to the goddess Kuan Yin, just as a kind of like a nod to my love for Asian deity. But even though Kuan Yin is she's Chinese, but but the shrines in Japan, the Shinto shrines or the Buddhist temples, those are insanely spiritual for me. I also really, really want to go to Sweden and Norway. And I think that is obviously because of Norse influence and my heritage. But that's another one. New Orleans, I have a friend, the lady who used to do my tattoos actually, she moved down to New Orleans, and there's a lot of spiritual whatnot in New Orleans. It's a very spiritual city, is what I'm told. Girls, just duking it out again. Redwood Forest, absolutely. Um, I think that, to me, our national parks here in America are insanely spiritual, and the ones that I've been to have been a spiritual experience enough for me. But there's a plethora of them that I'd like to go to that I haven't, which is, my top on my list are Yellowstone and Grand Teton, but I also want to do the Great Smoky Mountains and Grand Canyon, which I've never seen, Death Valley, Sequoia, and Yosemite. I've been to, not Sequoia, what's the other one? There's like a ton, there's a plethora of them in California. I've been to one of them. But yeah, so I don't know. I love our national parks. I think that they are insanely spiritual. And yes, I do want to go to Salem. I'm very jealous that you're going, Raquel. I've never been to Salem. I've been to Massachusetts once, and I did not hit up Salem while I was there. So hopefully someday I can go to Salem. But I actually think I might be sad most of the time that I'm there. I do not follow her. I will definitely check her out. I hear that the Smokies are amazing, Allison. I really want to go. Road trip to the Grand Canyon. If we could do like a Witchwood Circle retreat, I'm down. I can afford it. I hear that Massachusetts in general is gorgeous during the fall, and so is Vermont. I have this thing about Vermont. I want to go to Vermont. But the other, and I can list off places that I've been to that I find are spiritual, and it's the majority of it is in the Pacific Northwest, because the Pacific Northwest is insanely spiritual. So I think me growing up there is why I am who I am and why I am on this path. The Rockies would be incredible. I want to go to Colorado so badly. I want to go to, I think it's the Stanley Hotel, the one that gave Stephen King the inspiration for The Shining. I really want to go to that. Stonehenge would be incredible too. I have never been, but I've never been in that part of the world. I've been to Japan and Canada, which Canada actually, British Columbia is, Whistler is probably one of my favorite places in ever. But all right, I think I will, if you guys have one more question, I will answer it, and then I'm gonna call it quits. I've got, yeah, haunted hotels, like haunted destinations. I have a fascination with the paranormal, so, and I have since I was a kid, and I think it's just because, and I covered this in my I did a video on my paranormal experiences. I have a fascination with paranormal because I think I'm trying to find a way to kind of validate the experiences that I've had. So, yeah. Ooh. That would be an interesting destination. Samhain plans. So every year I kind of tend to do the same thing. I will put up an altar on my dining room table that has everybody who's passed. And so I have pictures of family members that I kind of honor, and I generally have offerings that I leave out, usually like pumpkin bread and an apple and a few other things. I've always wanted to do a dumb supper. I've never done it. I will do bonfire, and I will have, I'll drink wine or cider and kind of sit by the bonfire. Sometimes I'll do a thing where I write kind of what you want to do away with because of the new year, like the new year, for Samhain. And then obviously I plan on taking my kids trick-or-treating. I do a lot of divination on Samhain, but it's also just kind of a quiet time of reflection for me. Especially this year is going to be kind of rough because this time last year I never imagined that I would be putting my mother's picture up on that altar. So hopefully I won't be too, torn up about that. But I plan on just kind of, yeah, that too. I'm hanging out with Raquel and Trish. That actually I think will be pretty helpful for dealing with my sadness too. So I am so excited. We're gonna go to a like a dark arts market, and it's all just vendors who have like occult or witchcraft related type things here in St. Paul, and I'm so excited. That's gonna be really fun. And I'm just excited to like meet them and see them. So yeah, I know that my mother is definitely watching over her grandsons. That's for sure. But yeah, Samhain is going to be an interesting time for me this year, and I don't mean that just for my grief, but also because I get to meet Raquel and Trish, and I'm super excited. So yeah, hopefully we'll meet someday. Allison, you're in Ohio, right? That's Midwest. It's close. I honestly am surprised over the years that I've known Brittany that nothing has ever occurred. But honestly, I don't have a whole lot of money to travel and haven't really ever. If it's most of the time I've traveled to visit family members, so usually I've had a place to stay and all that stuff. But without further ado, I'm going to end the live because my poor sore throat needs a break. Hopefully I will start to feel better as the week goes on, and maybe I can get some videos. I'm still in the brainstorming stage for my Witchy Home and Hearth series, but I will start pumping those out as the months go on. I kind of want to do a slow progression with that. Most of my other videos are very wing it. If I get a spark to do a video, I'm like, all right, I'm going to make this now. That's just the way that I am. And hence why none of my videos are ever edited. Hardly ever. But I am so happy you guys sat and chatted with me. I will probably do this at some point again. And much love for you all. Hope you enjoyed watching. Blessed be, guys.